everyone.
Back in the room.
Back in the room. Back in the room. Out of the green room.
Yeah.
So a little buffet that was nice. Little glass of something cheeky like a prosecco, and into the recording room.
Exactly. And this episode is for anyone who has felt isolated by their unique ADHD experience, or just simply needed a place to belong. And for those who subconsciously or not managed to build their own support systems.
Yes.
So let's go to a place where the distractions are landmarks and the detours are the main roads. Welcome to ADHDville.
Meet the gang, 'cause the boys are here. The boys to entertain you. Boys to entertain, boys to entertain, boys to entertain you. Reference to 1970s English television called Dad's Army. No, not Dad's Army.
No.
It Ain't Half Hot, Mum.
Yes.
It Ain't Half Hot, Mum. Wow. Okay. So, hello, I'm Paul Thompson. Thompson with a P. Important. And I was diagnosed with the mixture that is the ADH and the D several months ago.
Months ago? I would say it was
months,
like
a year and a half.
A year and a
year and 7 months or so. Anyway.
Jesus, man. Time is
flying. So who are you, Martin? Who the hell are you?
Good question. I have said that to I said that to my wife the other day. Other day, she said, "I know you," and I went, "Do you though? Do you though? Do you?"
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I am Martin West, and I was diagnosed with the combined ADHD poo-poo platter in 2013. And before we go on, I just that conversation that I just had, like, know, do you know who I am? She said, "Well, ask me a question then." And I went, "Okay, Garamond, the font, right? Do I prefer the Berthold cut or the ITC cut of Garamond? Two different cuts of the same font." And she said, "You like the ITC cut." I went, No, the Berthold cut.
Wow.
So you don't know me at all?
Crashing down? Did your world come crashing down? Like,
I was like, she doesn't know me at all.
Oh, do you know what's come to mind? It's funny. My ex-wife, who I'm sure doesn't listen to this, is probably best. I realized, I had a sudden realization that she didn't know me at all. And it was like, it hit me like a kick in the stomach. She bought me this really bad Christmas or birthday present once. And I looked at this thing. I thought, you don't know me at all. We've been married for 12 years. Oh my God.
There we go. Yeah. See, this is it's like, you know, we're talking about ADHD and communities, and it's like,
yes,
are you in it, or are you on the outside looking in?
Yes. Have you made good choices about who you choose to spend your time with in order to manifest as best as possible your neurodiversity?
Yeah. So this is what this podcast is, all right. So I think we should.
But also, sorry, before we move on, also doing this podcast, I thought I knew the ranking Mr. Martin West. And I think it's reciprocal. I've found out some stuff about Martin West that I didn't expect.
I know,
and there's also it's really cool. I love that. You think you know someone for 40 years.
Think you know someone.
It's like, occasionally stuff like, mind blown.
Mine has been officially blown.
Yes,
exactly.
Anyway,
which I think is
one. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
The first sentence of the intro is it's like a perfect what's it called?
Segue
from the last things we said. So we're just two mates who, by coincidence or not, I think we're soon going to find out it wasn't a coincidence, after 39, nearly 40 years of friendship, discovered that we're co-ADHDers. Shocking. Okay, this is my shocked face if you're watching YouTubes. Now, it's really important to say that this is an entertainment podcast about adult ADHD and does not substitute for individualized advice from qualified health professionals. So don't take any advice from him
or
me or them
or
over there hiding in the corner. We're just here as a kind of all-inclusive ADHD park bench with room for everyone, including your doppelgangers, your alter egos, your body doubles, Martin.
Yes.
I don't know if you've got any of those. Your chaperones, you've probably got oodles of those. And even your best buddies, Eddie's great chaperone, Eddie. Still here, congratulations for your staying power. Then grab your jetpacks, your pedalos, space hoppers, luxury yachts, quad bikes, canoes, kayaks,
sandals, flip-flops,
Robin Reliance. And let us take you to ADHDville, an imaginary town that we've created in our minds, where we like to explore different parts of the A, the D, the H, and the D again.
And we start off, as we are now doing, in the pub, the King's Agitated Head, where we, the ex-mayors of ADHDville, take care of business. And the one thing I've got on my agenda.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about ADHD and community building in parentheses or brackets without even realizing it.
Yes. Subconscious network building.
I like this idea. So I don't. Where are we going, Paul? Where are we going?
Town square. What about the town square?
Let's go to the town square. And hang out there, which is the centre of ADHDville, where many people come and they indeed go.
Yes. Some just stand around. Some maybe frolic. Prance around, have a dance.
Some sell flowers, lovely flowers. Get your flowers.
Yeah.
All right.
Did we ever have a town crier? We should have one, probably.
When we were mayors, we didn't have a town crier as such. I think we put an advert out, and there was just one guy that turned up that was just like sobbed his heart out and was like blubbing all over the place. And we went, no, mate, not that kind of crier.
My aching sides. My aching sides.
Wait. I think my side has split.
Have you heard the rumours, though, Martin, that the newly elected mayor isn't quite what people were expecting, and there's some I don't know, some rumours going around.
There's some shenanigans going on in the leadership of ADHDville. But we'll just hang out in the pub. We'll keep an eye on it.
Keep our ear to the ground.
Right, so let's jump in our tractor. I don't have any theme music for the town square, so we're just going to get in the tractor and then jump straight out. Yeah, we can make up a song. All right, let's get in. Going to the town square. The town square. It's not square. It's actually round. All right. There we go. Cool. All right.
Wine.
So, who's going to kick off this thing? I mean, I can talk about. I mean, when we talk about community, it's like obviously we can start from a place that kind of says, right, well, if you have ADHD or indeed your ADHD, you can definitely kind of start thinking when you're young, like this place doesn't seem to work in a way that I think it does, right? And you kind of start to feel like you're weird and you're different and you're odd.
I mean, it's so often that we talk about feeling, and in the ADHD community, it being you feeling like an alien. It feels a very lonely place, right? You feel like you're at a bird sanctuary and you're the only donkey. I don't know where that came from as a description. Anyway, so it feels like the polar opposite of community, let alone being part of one, right? Or
I can remember when I was,
and yet,
what?
And yet you get. I had a conversation with someone the other day. You get to I'm 58 soon, and you look back, you see a pattern, and you think, "Ooh, I'm like surrounded in reality by people that I've accumulated along the way,
like a magnet,
friends, and like a magnet, like a dragnet that are maybe neurologically a little bit."
Special.
A little bit, bit special. Good word, special. Yeah. We not like special fried rice. More special than special fried rice.
Than fried rice.
Yeah.
I think that's actually where ADHDville podcast can put a line in the sand and say friends are more special than fried rice.
Yeah, because fried rice. What is special about fried rice? It's just got a bit of egg in it.
As far as I'm concerned, I didn't have to cook it, so that makes it special. As far as any food that I don't have to cook is special.
But do you find yourself obsessing about that kind of stuff? I think that's very ADHD. Like, who was the first person that thought, okay, we could serve rice, or we could put it on the menu as special, and I put an egg in it.
Mm-hmm.
That happened at some point, right?
But I do like special fried rice.
Okay. Anyway,
I was trying to think of when I first felt like I was weird and different, and I was trying to think back, and I can remember there was a phase at school when if someone asked me the time, I would say it was 4 o'clock, regardless of the time. Right, I would just say, you go, "Hi, Martin, what's the time?" And I say, "It's 4 o'clock." And they go, "Eh?" And this went on for a while. And then at some point, I can remember sitting in biology going, "Why am I so weird? Why am I doing that?" Like I sort of thought, "You're just a weird little boy." I can remember thinking that.
This is difficult for me because I don't remember until quite recently of feeling like I just thought like I felt like an alien. Oh, no, wait. I think it started only fairly recently, like 10 years ago, feeling like an alien and being doing at school. Right. I was just like in my own world, and that's it. End of story. I just felt I don't fit in. Which is different from feeling like I was different.
Right.
And
I think when you kind of look back and, no. Yeah, for sure. And I think what I didn't necessarily feel so much like that because, this episode is about like subconsciously building a support network around you. Like very early on, the friends that I have now, after all these decades, like yourself and some of our joint friends, they're all come back they all go way back to a point when, I was, I don't know, I want to say like 12, 13, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I was in the big school. I'm going up to the big school, I am.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of, and I managed to find a bunch of friends, and they're all, I would say, probably spectrum friendly, let's just say.
Yeah. I remember going to a big school, and there was the big school. I remember there was one black kid at the school.
Oh, I had
And
one as well. Weirdly,
one
single
black
one.
kid at the school, and I remember really identifying with him subconsciously, right?
Right.
And from that, it developed into, around that time, there was an amazing series that came on TV, an American series called Roots.
Oh yeah.
And that from there developed my really strong passion for black rights and South African apartheid issues, reading loads of books, Malcolm X, oh Jesus, I can't,
Yeah.
and
No,
I really got into that. And I think now reflecting on it, I realized that was because it's like me identifying with a community,
right. Like here is an outlier person. I feel like I'm an outlier person. Like I feel we have a common bond.
And the unfairness of why they were being treated, how they're being treated,
Right.
So I remember that boy, and I regret, actually, we did a podcast about regrets. I never went up to the guy and said, "Oh, what's your name?"
Oh,
Never.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame.
I knew the kid in our school, but it's it is funny how that we kind of like tend to sort of I found the popular kids, like I never felt like I was in that league, in that area. Right. It was all like, all the kind of the guys that were good at sports, and all, all the popular girls, like that was just like,
oh God,
there was like an alien bunch of people that I couldn't relate to.
Yeah. I had no idea of being attractive, or no idea, even if girls would make it really, really obvious that they were attracted to me.
Do you want to go out with me, Paul?
Yeah, and I'd fend them off. I actually got attacked by a girl.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because she was attracted to me, and her name was Kathy Tidy. She attacked me.
You missed out,
Kathy Tidy. Oh wow, she attacked me in the playground.
Blimey!
And like literally, had fistfuls of my hair.
Ooh, that's passion.
Amazing. Yeah. So anyway,
that's how you get that's how you get a boy's that's how you get a boy's attention. You just grab fistfuls of hair.
Exactly. And I've just realized the reason why I didn't connect with the black boy at the school, because I was already getting bullied, and I thought, okay, I've got enough of my own shit to deal with, being an outsider. I don't want to increase the risk by pinning my attaching my flag to another outsider. It's like, another risk. Yeah
no, it is weird, because I remember, and it is weird how those little early connections start, because I used to read comic books, and someone at the front of the class, I heard from someone else that they also read comic books. And I went, ooh. Mm-hmm. And I went up to them. I said, oh, have you heard of this comic? And they went, no. And then I introduced them to that comic. And then we've been friends for like ever since. So that was Steve Shillito. And I was friends. Yeah. So, and there is that kind of like interesting way that you kind of, you know, if you have a special interest or a thing that you really like, and you know, and you see that in someone else, you get, oh, I need this person. I need to go and talk to them about that thing.
Yeah.
And then you get, oh, we are actually alike. So let's be friends.
I didn't have a contact like that at school. No.
Well, yeah, I know. I think many people don't. They just kind of like the you know, that those early years. They're just kind of,
which, you know, we're talking about subconsciously building our networks and communities, and so, you know, it's often the we experience the polar opposite of that, of being very lonely. You know. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about, you know, like trying to build communities, because, you know, I was just like a little kid or young adult or whatever. There is a lot that goes into building a community, and we're talking about pre-internet. The you know, like the only people you know are your friends, and that's it. Right?
Yeah.
There is nothing else.
Yeah.
So,
it's much more coincidental in a way. Yeah, that you might or might not, you know, bump into people that you could potentially connect with.
Yeah. I can remember like my first, what I can think of as like trying to build a community was this kind of failed attempt. So before the internet, there was a thing which you'll know, Paul. It was called Prestel, which was when you would switch on your TV and put it to a certain channel, and then the information would come up, and it'd be like the weather or flights. You know, there was all this kind of like digital, very basic 8-bit graphic.
Yeah, there was also Oracle at the same time.
Right. And I'm not quite sure how I managed to find out, but there was a magazine that said if you buy a modem unit, you could hook it to your phone, and if you had I had a Sinclair Spectrum, like a little one of those early game computers, back in like the real early 80s, and you could actually get on to Prestel, and you could carve out your own space. You could actually write your own page.
Okay. Right. Okay.
So I did. I mean, I had the what would be like a proto website, where if you managed to accidentally press the wrong buttons on your television control, you might actually weirdly stumble on my page, and that was, it was just random shit. It was just really weird stuff and just random thoughts I was having as a kid. And I think that was like an early version of me trying to kind of build something that maybe people would go, ooh, look, I like this, you know, trying to build something.
I think I've mentioned this on episodes before, but on reflection, I get really emotional when I ever see it, come across it again on the internet. When I see Gary Newman on Top of the Pops, when he appeared for the first time on Top of the Pops, I saw him when I was 10 or 11, and like subconsciously thought, oh, there's others like me out there.
Right. He was he was almost like a poster child for, I think he described himself as
Asperger's.
Asperger's, yeah. I think that's how he called himself.
And it blows my mind a bit now because I only found out about this about 4 years ago about this, and he telling his story about it, and I was like, my mind was blown that and I made the link like that's why I was strangely connected to him. It was like, oh, there's another one from my planet,
right? Exactly, another one from your planet, Paul. Exactly. Yeah. So, if you don't know who Gary Newman is, he was like a pop star from the late 70s, early 80s, and he had that kind of very robotic kind of pale face, and he looked like an alien. Yes, and he just kind of like played into that whole thing.
He didn't really dance around. He just like stayed pretty still, and occasionally glanced towards the camera in a kind of vague way
and sneer occasionally.
Yes, yeah, it's brilliant.
But yeah,
they did the song was called "Our Friends Electric."
Yeah,
by a band called Tubeway Army. It's great, brilliant.
Right. So there was.
If I come across it now, I get emotional. You know, I'm a 10-year-old again, or 11-year-old.
Oh, I know. And it is kind of interesting when you see, like when because we said our communities was basically just school, right? And then you go and watch TV, and there's someone else that is like you, or you think kind of like, no, you're from my planet.
Exactly,
you're from my planet. I know you are.
Or it could have been, I don't know, the Muppets, and you see like, I don't know, Animal who plays the drums, Gonzo. Think, oh, it's another one from my planet.
Right. So, I know where he's coming from. I get you, Gonzo. Yeah. I get you.
I always connected with Animal playing the drums. Oh, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Because he was like a sort of like so much energy that was almost like kind of, and it was always on a leash. It was almost like you kind of felt like he was, he just really wanted to let rip, and then he'd go,
yeah, exactly. And it's funny, isn't it? I think it's a really interesting discussion about community. It's not necessarily about, you might picture community representing like, I don't know, crowds of people or in a community center. So it's like just making like connections, and then those connections build up into like a pattern in some way. Like the first time I saw Debbie Harry, like, oh my God, there's actually a female from my planet.
All right. She's from my planet too.
Morrissey, when he was on Top of the Pops for the first time and swinging around a bunch of daffodils.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not from my planet, but he's not from this planet,
Right. But yeah, it is like that becomes like this other little extension out of your world into something. There is something bigger out there. There is more like you.
Yeah, you feel a little bit less lonely.
Right.
And in the meantime, my dad always called me his weird son.
I think we've said this.
Always called me that, yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was supposed to have a conversation with my dad 2 weeks ago, and I was going to tell him about my diagnosis, and I didn't in the end because the conversation went in a certain way, and I didn't. But in my mind, I'm going to tell my dad, look, in the end, you diagnosed me 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when you always called me. I say, Dad, you always called me your weird son. You diagnosed me as being neurodiverse 45 years ago.
Right. And
without realizing it,
Right.
Anyway, so yeah.
That's, I mean, like it's kind of, I mean, like, I'm just thinking about, yes. So when I kind of slightly fast forward myself, and then you get the internet, right, and then that starts to happen, and then you get online, and then there's a whole. I mean, I found like there was a bigger community where you could talk to people outside of, outside of work. Well, actually, you know what? Let's talk about work, because then you kind of go through the whole school system, right?
Yeah.
And then you meet people along the way, and you kind of like pick up people, and then you go out into the workplace, which is like another totally alien place.
It's much more random as well, and unsettling, destabilizing,
and very masking. So everyone was much more masked at work than they were at school. At school, people were generally just like, unmasked for most of the time, it seemed to me anyway. But so then trying to find your people in a work in environment was, I found, very difficult.
Yeah.
Certainly
I think
early on,
over the years, I've subconsciously connected with people who I thought would not put obstacles in the way of my objectives, right? And when I say objectives, from project to project, I was like, I subconsciously picked out people like fellow creatives who I thought I could work with and weren't going to upset me, right? For instance, if there was a really nice project, a really nice client, and I thought, okay, this project's has got loads of potential. At that point, I would start subconsciously trying to work with people and push the project in a certain way, to work with people that I thought wouldn't get in my way of what I thought the potential of the project was,
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's, I mean, I'm just trying to kind of think about projects that I've worked with you on, like, way back in the day. And I'm kind of thinking,
worked almost. Well, yeah, I was thinking about this week, actually. We didn't work with each other a lot, actually.
No, I was going to say, if we got a project, we were, like, if you had a project, you would basically just work on it, like
yeah.
You were just like an island unto yourself, and if I got something, I was an island unto myself.
Yeah,
and we never really bounced ideas off of each other much,
which is a shame. But yeah. Well, I mean, there is a kind of a reason for that, because I'm quite a bit of a control freak. I like to how can I say it?
A control freak?
A control freak, yeah.
Ownership.
I like ownership, yeah. It's like if the project fucks up, it's down to me, and no one else,
right.
And the less people involved, the less obstacles are going to appear. Yeah. I think that's quite common amongst creatives. They're quite, protective.
Right. And when I think about it, I was definitely that way. And I think being that way, I never really, I'm just trying to think back in those early years, like I never really found my tribe, even though you and I were working in the creative industry where, as I've said before, you can just throw a Sharpie and you'll hit someone who is ADHD. And it wasn't until I got into advertising agencies where you are forced to work much more collaboratively. Like you couldn't work as an island. You were paired up with a copywriter. You worked with the account teams.
Totally.
You pulled in other people for brainstorms. So it was much more of a collaborative thing, forcing me to kind of open up, I guess. And then I went, oh, actually, everyone here is like is like ADHD. Like we're all the same. And then thankfully, I found a lot of my tribe just work people.
Yeah,
because that was the
yeah,
industry. That's where we all hung out. Doing
totally.
advertising.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about this episode during the week, to do, reflecting on it. And I realized that I do something, whether it's in my personal life or in my professional life, but mostly my personal life. I've realized since being diagnosed that my way of connecting with people is to test their sense of humor, right? It's like throwing out, like going fishing, throwing out a hook, throwing out like a weird thing that in my head is funny, and see if they take the bait. And then like, oh, they took the bait. Oh, he's someone I can, I could spend time with.
Yeah.
Or not.
No, right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I do that now. Like that is still something that I do. It's like a sort of it's like a test. It's like one of those kind of gatekeeping tests. Like if I throw out a line or two, which I know that if you're that way inclined, you will pick it up and then you'll respond back in a certain way or something, right?
Yeah.
And if they do, then great. We just have a really good back and forth, and we're like best buds.
Yeah, exactly. Or not. You could throw the line out, and it's like you get this that stare that comes back. You're like,
right, you throw it out.
What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah,
it just falls flat.
It falls
throw 'em out
flat.
Again.
Yeah.
All right, nothing.
Yeah, and you reel it back in. It's just got weeds on it.
Yeah, nothing. I was like, okay,
Nothing.
right,
Nothing biting.
You are not my people. You are not from my planet. I shall move on. I know. I do. I like. There are also not only just in that kind of like conversational, joking and using humor, which I think a lot of us do, but even just the kind of what people are wearing, right? The choices that they make, like you have tattoos, right?
Yeah.
So like I tend to think of like if someone's got a lot of tattoos, and I kind of tend to think, rightly or wrongly, that they may be more my people, even though I don't have anything at all. But I kind of go, I like you. You're interesting.
Yeah. Well, I did a bit of research based on ADHD and how people ADHDers pick up on body language, right? So if you put it into context, people say 9/10 of communication is nonverbal, right?
Right.
And there is something to be said for, they said ADHDers are really good at reading a room. So why are they good at reading a room? Because they pick up on mostly body language, right?
Right.
Or it could be tone of voice or a general mixture of stuff, and there's definitely something in that. So whether it's, as you say, it could be also how people dress, the way they've cut their hair, and you could like see there are certain, how can you say it, certain flags.
Yeah.
You think, oh, there you go. That's
exactly.
gonna be someone interesting to talk to. I'll go and talk to them.
There's a spicy person. I know, because you end up with this sort of ADHD radar almost.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of where you see them and you can kind of pick up on so much stuff. You think, oh, maybe they are my sort of people, and you might kind of go over there and start chatting with them, and they kind of and they joke back, and they just seem to have very similar stories to you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
and
it's
this will open up.
It happens so fast. Well, we had a guest on one of our episodes, Alice, here in here in Italy. If you're watching Alice, hello, Alice. We did exactly this. She was waiting. I went to a gig here in Italy, and she was one of the acts that was going to perform that night. And she was at one end of the room, I was at the other, and we just like straight away, really strong connection, and we started talking as if we're like best buddies straight away.
Right.
And it's for me, when that connection happens, when that kind of dynamic happens, especially in conversation, it's my favorite kind of dopamine.
Right.
That sense of like, oh, this conversation could go any freaking where, could go anywhere,
Yeah, I know.
It's my favorite dopamine.
It's an adventure. I know, and then you end up with with a bunch of friends who are all kind of very similar, of a very similar kind of way, and then you end up with like these glorious times, which is the things that I miss. If I miss anything, it's and I've said this before. It's like you're sitting in a pub in England with all your mates, and you're just bouncing stuff off of each other left and right, and you're just trying to make each other laugh, and you're trying to throw in that killer line, and it's such a joy. Like when you find your people, it's such a joy, right? To kind of like, oh my God, I really feel like I belong, and it's such a relief, right? Such a relief. To kind of go, oh God, there's more people. They like, it's not just me. They like me. I like them. We have shared experiences. We have the same sorts of struggles. And then you end up, I think, where you out of the backside of all of this is you end up with like, you have a sense of belonging. Because when you are, if you're out on your own, you suffer more. If you don't have that community, you suffer more from depression and anxieties.
Oh God, yeah,
and all of that. And just having that community of people that you talk to means that it's so much healthier for you. Just sort of purely mental and physical.
Yeah. This just come to mind. Because I live in Italy, and unfortunately, ADHD and autism is not on their radars. It's really not. Also because I live out in the sticks, in a medieval village, and it's not on people's radars, right? Not in the least bit. It's not even. They don't even know there's a radar, right? And so it is lonely, it's hard. It's really hard.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, because when you make the connections, it is better when it's physical. There's no substitute for making the connections when they're actually physical, and they're not, they're not so stimulating online.
I think personally, it is different. Having an online connection is different, but I would argue that actually it is different, but it can be so much deeper, faster online than it is in the real life. Like I've made connections with people that it would have taken me like a year to kind of get to a certain place, but actually online, we actually, all that kind of bullshit was kind of cut out, and actually we just went straight down to the deep stuff, like so quickly.
But that's an interesting thing. That is a very ADHD dynamic, though, in a way. I always find when you talk to fellow ADHDers, the filters are left off, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and I found that conversations with ADHDers and autistic people are very open and open and free kind of relationships. You know,
Yeah.
you just like get into like really not deep stuff, but like really how can I say it? You get into like really open kind of conversations really, really easily, you know, free flowing and, you know.
Yeah. No, right.
I've noticed that since I got diagnosed. It's that the conversation between ADHDs are really,
yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of the right
well,
description.
while you're thinking about it, I guess, the as you get older, I think we are more comfortable with kind of like laying stuff out there, like exposing something of ourselves, right? You know, like a foible or a thing or a thing that we struggle with, right? And then that other person then kind of goes, "Oh, I can now talk about my struggles or the things that I find weird," right? Is that, you know, so I like that the more comfortable you are with the ADHD and yourself, the more open you are with other people, and that gives them permission to kind of be open, as well. And you know, as you say, you end up with that kind of like much more open dialogue.
Yeah, and I found that it gets really open and insightful and honest really, really fast. You know, it's like bang, straight into it. You know, unfiltered and stuff. And whereas I've noticed with neurotypical people, they kind of like tiptoe around the edge a lot more. You know, and they're scared to maybe, you know, go on into certain subject. With ADHD, I've noticed like it's really kind of like bang, direct and open and trusting. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we're now 47 minutes in. So,
Okay.
Have you got any other final things that we haven't gone over that you?
Oh, just this one last thing I've got here. There's one thing I think that we talked about the how element of making connections. There's also an element of, I mean, just me, something I thought of, it came to mind, might be relevant, might be not, but it makes sense to me. I think we also look to make these connections because, like, it's almost like saying my life, my daily routines are difficult enough already, so we look to make these kind of connections, right? Throwing the hook out and, you know, to people, because you're like looking for people that aren't going to make your life even more complicated than they already are, right? Just like energy saving, you know, you're already exhausted by the neurotypical world. So you throw out the lines, you know, you look for those connections because you want to think, okay, I want to spend time with people that aren't going to make my daily routine even more exhausting. Do you see what I mean? Subconsciously. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And who needs to be exhausted? Well, I'm too exhausted to actually walk to the post office. So should we just
get the tractor?
Let's get the tractor out. Bring it around, lads.
Yeah. And those tractor seats, you know, they're not comfortable. No padding.
No. A farmer's arse must be pretty made of stern, stocky stuff. Stocky stuff. Yeah. Oh boy. All right. Go for it, Paul.
Go for it. Yes, your feedback is vital to us.
It is.
Everyone out there listening and watching, we read all of your comments and we might read yours out on our future podcast. Yes, we will. Yes, we might. Like yes, this one, Martin from Mel.
Yeah. She says
who wrote to us on YouTube's.
Well, the YouTube's, I think it's because episode 74. She said, "Well done, Vanessa and guys. I enjoyed this podcast. Kiss, kiss, XX."
XX.
And then we've got one from Shelley. Great episode. Got my gears turning about accountability and ADHD and autism. And then, do you want to do the last one, Mr. T?
Yes, we've got one from a very loyal listener, watcher, Alexandra, who left this message on the YouTubes. She's a lovely episode, guys. ADHD and Sonder episode, which is the last but one. Yep, penultimate one.
Episode 75.
So relatable! Exclamation mark. Get same feeling when I'm in a plane, even if I'm nearly in a panic attack. Those thoughts of the world are comforting. So yeah, just talking about, to put it in context, Sonder, about how we behave and relate to being in crowded places, and the sort of feeling of being not knowing people.
Right,
not knowing
other people are the heroes of their own story, and you're just like a little bit part player,
bit part walk on, walk off parts.
I know. Which
actually, but it's a really interesting episode, actually.
Yeah, go if you haven't gone back and watched our episode on ADHD and Sonder. It is unique. It is different. No one else is talking about it. We are there at the forefront of podcastery. Podcastery.
Finger on the proverbial pulse. Yes.
We are going to new and different places. So
yes.
All right. So I think that just means that
outro time.
I can say that ADHDville is delivered fresh every Tuesday to all providers of fine podcasts.
Please subscribe. Outro music.
It is indeed. Please subscribe to the podcast and rate us most magnificent, and feel free to correspond with us at will in the comments. But wait, there is more. If you want to see our beautiful, beautiful faces, then you can sally forth to the YouTubes and the TikToks. And if you want to write us an email, you can pick up a quill and email us at ADHDville@gmail.com. But in the meantime,
or if you haven't got a quill, pick up a ballpoint pen, a bic,
pencil,
piece of a crayon,
or not to be. But in the meantime, be fucking kind to yourself.
And I beseech you, fellow ADHDers, know thyself, sons of the hounds, come hither and get the flesh. Which is, if you don't know it, it's actually a war cry from the Cameron Scottish clan. It's what they used to shout. Pre-war from the hills.
All right, so it's like a battle cry for your life.
Battle cry from the Cameron clan.
Oh, look at that. We have outlasted the outro.
Wow.
I know. So that just leaves me to press this button that says...
Yes, there,
press it.
says the mayor. That's that.